Remember these words, very vital. Never judge a book by its cover. Things are not always the way it appears when you see it out on the surface. Even the Bible says your eyes can deceive you and lie to you. So just because you see certain things a certain way doesn't mean that that's exactly what it is. And what I'm applying this principle to is health and fitness. Sometimes you see people that are really skinny and you may assume that they're really weak. And when I say skinny, I mean thin, not a lot of muscle mass. And well, another thing that you see sometimes when you see guys that are guys and women that have a lot of muscle size, they're really big, but they're actually really weak. So when you see people that are really big and muscular, you assume that they're the strongest person in the gym or the strongest person in a situation. Same thing can be applied or assumed about someone who's really thin. I'll give you an example. I used to be in the military years ago. When I first got out of boot camp, you meet a little buddy before you start going to your real main station. And I met a guy and we were going to the gym. Usually because there's nothing else to do. So we were going to the gym and he was my best friend. He was a lot thinner than me. And I remember we were both beginning our journey towards taking working out serious. Now, of course, I worked out in the gym in high school and stuff, but I never really took it too serious and wasn't learning a lot. I was in there just lifting weight, just trying to waste time. And something I realized working out with this guy, you can't judge a book by its cover because even though he was thinner than me and I was naturally a little bit bigger than him, we were lifting the same weights and we were progressing at the same rate. And sometimes when you would train with somebody who's stronger than you, meaning like we would train with another guy who's working out in the gym, we're trying to get pointers from him, and he was increasing the weight. And my friend was able to keep up with this weight increase, but I wasn't. So then you learn a lot about fitness. You learn that just because someone's small doesn't necessarily mean that they're weak. Another example, I was in Ethiopia while I was in the military. After I was already like 3, 4 years in, went to Ethiopia and worked out with some guys. Not even worked out, working with some guys. We had some guys come to our project. We were building a school, and some guys came to our project, and these guys are really thin, small guys, and we had to assemble a window onto a frame, and it had holes there and you had to put screws in there. Now we didn't have drills, and the drills we had, they were like malfunctioning, so the only way to do it was hand tighten screws in. We were trying to put them in, like, man, it's not working, it's not going to go in. And this is when I was at the peak of my working out. This was at my strongest. I was benching, 315, trying to go up to 350, squatting in the 400s. This is when I was in the strongest I had ever been. And I realized that size isn't everything. Size and gym strength is different from real life strength, because when it came to hand tightening these screws, I was incompetent. I wasn't able to do it. I was one of the strongest guys in the gym on our camp, but strongest guy. But when it came time to hand tighten these screws, no one was able to do it except for the guys except for the African guys who worked there, who were from Ethiopia, who were from there, who were able to do it. They did this job for a living. They worked with hand tools and everything for a living. They didn't have electric tools, and they were able to get this work done no problem. They were able to put the screws in there. Essentially, basically, the guy told me to move out the way, and he said, "Watch this." And he got the screw and he said, he was able to do it. Able to do it so fast that I was surprised. I was like, man, like, how is this guy able to do this? And that's when I realized true strength does not come from the size of your muscle. That's when I learned about muscle density. I started learning about muscle density and started learning that size doesn't always equal strength. Another example, nowadays when I go to the gym, I see guys, or when I used to go to the gym, I see guys that are like much bigger, but they're not lifting really big weight. I've been honing in on these practices of true strength, but not being necessarily big. I've been trying to practice on that for years. And I realize this principle that things are not always the way they seem. So I see some big guys, and sometimes I notice that they'll be staring at me, and I'll be lifting more weight, doing more reps than they are. And then that's when you truly understand that you can't judge a book by its cover. Just because someone's big doesn't necessarily mean that they're strong. Like there's this new show on Netflix called Physical 100, and some of the biggest people on there were the weakest ones. They like, okay, they weren't the weakest ones. They were obviously stronger than the skinniest person there. Skinny doesn't like thin, but what I'm saying is just because someone has really big pumped up muscles doesn't necessarily mean that that person is really strong. The way that you get your muscles really big or get really big pumped up muscles is just time under tension. You work out, work and work and work and work and work, and you can get your muscles big and not necessarily be strong. Now, remember this: there's multiple ways to get muscles big. There's not just working out time under tension and getting your muscles big that way. You can also get your muscles big with actual hard work. So some people are big or they have their muscle size and their muscle shape because they're actually strong. Some people have dense muscles and don't need necessarily to be big. And it also has to play a lot with your genetics. Some people are naturally big because of their genetics. Some people are just prone to being a little bit smaller because of their genetics. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're weak. Okay? So back to the show Physical 100. There's one girl on there who's like the buffest girl on there, and she's like, ooh, like ridiculous. She's like on the cover of the show. But she got, I don't want to say manhandled, but she got manhandled by like this one of the thinnest dudes on there. Because the dude went against her. I don't know why, but assuming that no other girl was going to be able to beat this girl, but this girl had the biggest muscles on the show as far as all the women on there, but she was like one of the weakest girls as well. She was really weak and got eliminated early in the show because it goes to show you that actual muscle strength goes deeper than muscle size. And this brings me to my next topic, the 5 rules of fitness. After years and years and years of physical training, fitness training, with different applications, training with different people, I've trained with people who are aspiring bodybuilders, I've trained with strength trainers, I've trained with people who are naturally strong, I trained with people who are trying to get strong but just couldn't do it. I trained by myself, I trained with endomorphs, ectomorphs, mesomorphs, and I've learned an array, a wide array of fitness and health information and a lot of key principles that are very vital for if you want to have actual progress in your fitness training. So I came up with 5 rules of fitness training. That's going to be in my next video. So I hope I inspired you to do some kind of research of your own. And also, if you haven't done already, hit me a like if you support the message. And also make sure you subscribe because I got a lot more content coming up soon. Since you're watching YouTube, looking at health and fitness videos, I'm pretty sure that you've heard of Mike Rashid. And Mike Rashid has come up with the Ambrosia Collective. Now, I'm going to be reviewing a lot of his products and going to be utilizing them in some of my upcoming videos. Not only will I be reviewing the products, but I'm going to be using them in a special video series I'm going to be coming up in the future. Stay tuned. Peace.